Good morning. It is Monday the 5th of June and it is about 10 to 12, so just morning. Hope everybody's fine. Glittery shirt on. Well, today I was hoping to do some work in the garden, and I'll have to turn the thing round for this to show you the window, if I can zoom in on it. As you can see, it is slinging it down with rain. Turn that round so I can see what one look like. So, second week on trot that I wanted to do some work in the garden, and second week on trot it's been slinging it down with rain. Was expected last week with it being bank holiday. Always rains on bank holiday. So during the week I'll have to do some work in the morning if it's dry. So what's the topic of discussion today? Brilliant Skype session with Joe last night. I had to cut it short. I began to feel very tired. I've had lack of sleep over the last week. I've been doing some work outside, laying piping, because they're going to bring cable TV to the area. Well, I was very tired last night, so me and Joe had to cut it short. I was that feeling where the eyes are itchy, and all I wanted to do was close my eyes and go to sleep, so we cut it short. Not much short, about half an hour, 3/4 of an hour. We're still on for about 3 hours or so. But the topic of conversation is what we talked about, specifically 2 documentaries that I've seen over the last week. Done by the BBC, and they were quite good. First off, the frivolous one. As the song goes, it was 20 years ago today, Sgt Pepper began a band to play. Yes, it's the anniversary of the release of the Sgt Pepper album. It's after 20 years. It was actually released on the 1st of June 1967. So it's actually 50 years ago today. Half a century they've been remembering. The documentary was about how, with the olden style equipment, you must remember, for those there, younger ones, it was pre-digital age. Excuse me. So everything was done on magnetic multi-track tapes, usually 4-track tapes. And it talked about how they led the music, how they came up with the music, recording different instruments on different tracks, and then combined them, put on the next tape as the first track. And very good documentary. How the process went, how they came up with the songs, the influences in the songs. I mean, one of the most famous songs, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, how many people think it's to do with LSD, but it actually came from the notes. There was inspiration because I think it was John's daughter drew this picture of this girl in the sky with diamonds, and the influence from the Alice in Wonderland books, and very good documentary. BBC does very good documentaries. Now we come on to the important one. There was a documentary, and I started seeing part of it at work during the break, and actually came home the following morning, found it on catch-up TV and watched it. It was called The Truth About AIDS. Talking specifically about the HIV virus and the fight against it developing into AIDS. autoimmune deficiency syndrome. And I was sat there watching it at work and people asking questions, and it became very disheartening in one point because people thought AIDS and HIV are exactly the same. Right, they are related. What happens is you get the HIV virus. It attacks the immune cells by, I should have drawn a picture of this, but what happens is, let's say that's your chromosome there, right? What it does, it cleverly unstitches part of the chromosome and inserts itself into there, which makes it very hard for the body to detect it and to fight against it. And it also, because it becomes part of your DNA, it reproduces itself. Just exactly the same. DNA splits, new DNA with this, and it replicates this virus. You get the virus, eventually multiplies to a stage where the body is saturated with it, and then you can develop what's called AIDS. So you get the virus, but you die of the disease. And the disease can be something as simple as a common cold, or because the body's immune system is damaged, you cannot fight against it, so the cold becomes pneumonia, to bronchial pneumonia, to all the other diseases that are associated with it, and you eventually die of that. It's like a secondary disease that you die of. But the reason you get these nasty diseases is because the body cannot fight against it, because the HIV has suppressed the immune system. But what this documentary did, and it's quite good, is the doctor involved works in one of the labs that deals with live cultures of the HIV virus. Vials and vials of blood from HIV victims. What was quite interesting is I've heard of the drug AZT. Don't know what that stands for, but basically it was a very nasty drug that made people ill, and it was horrible. Nobody liked it. But through these labs, they've come up with better drugs. One's called an antiretroviral treatment, ART. I'm sure that's it, ART. And this is the prescribed drug these days. And basically the tagline of it is, you don't die these days. The drugs are so good that 99.9999999% of the population can live a normal life. All because the way these drugs work, also it stops the virus from replicating itself. So when the old blood system dies, it's not being replaced as readily. So your viral, what they call the load count, can actually go down. And that actually showed this. One bloke who had been diagnosed with HIV started up with a viral load count of in the thousands. And after about 6 months, the virus was undetectable in his blood system. Now, this isn't a cure. If he stops taking the tablets, the virus will come back. We are not to a stage where we can cure it. We can eradicate it from the body. Joe did actually suggest that, could it be treated with like leukemia, where by chemotherapy, radiation, you destroy all the blood system and stuff like that, and healthy bone marrow infusion, would that re-establish the blood system in the person as a pure blood system with no viral infection? Don't know. Probably it's something that these guys ought to be looking at. But it just depends how this virus hides in the system. Does it eventually invade the bone marrow? Does it invade the muscles? And I'm not sure. I'm not a scientist. But what was quite interesting, it became in the papers and it hit the internet. You can find it on the internet. Prince Harry, the son of Princess Diana and Charles, actually went and invited the press down and did a HIV test at this hospital. And he did laugh about it, and me and Joe were laughing about it, because you can imagine what the press was hoping for. That it wouldn't come back as a negative test, but as a positive test. What a scandal that would have been. Prince Harry infected with HIV. And this is a hospital in London. I'm not sure if it's called Midway or Medway Hospital. It became very famous because that was the hospital that Princess Diana visited when she visited the AIDS victims. And that time it was AIDS victims. It weren't HIV positive people, it was AIDS victim. In the 80s, when the treatment wasn't very good, your life expectancy, if you lived 5 years, then chances are you were going to live longer, but not many people lived more than 5 years. And he actually took a test, and he got talking about the stigma of going for HIV tests in the gay community. I think most people have gone for at least one HIV test. Some go, like I do, every 6 months to get tested. But there is a stigma. And also it is worry. Because people still of the opinion, if you have HIV, that's it, it's a death sentence. It's not anymore. It's not my... And I'm going to come on to this in a bit, but there's a home testing kit you can buy. And the tagline of that is HIV is 3 letters. It is not a sentence. And it's not anymore. If you're tested positive, you go down to the doctors. They'll do another test to double check, make sure you haven't got a bad result. If you come back positive, you're on tablets straight away within 6 months. Chances are the viral load won't be seen in your blood system. The only problem is with these drugs, you do have to take them regular. It indicates that, oh, if I miss a day, I mean, like my Ramipril, I've missed a day and gone, oh, sugar, you do have to take them. I think it's twice a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, 12 hours apart, you take them, and you do have to take them. If you don't take them, your viral load will increase. But I think it's still, and he does say this, it's still a stigma. These letters, HIV, with a plus sign beside it, HIV positive. But also, you've got to get through to the, shall we say, the straight world. Unfortunately, in the straight world, and I have seen this before, they still think as HIV, it only affects gay men. It doesn't. It affects everybody. Gay, straight, bisexual. And you've got to think of it as this. it isn't just your safety, it's the people you're sleeping with. If you're HIV positive and you sleep with somebody, the chances are you will pass on the virus. And it's a good chance you will pass on the virus, especially if the swapping of, should we say, bodily fluids, semen, vaginal fluids. If somebody bleeds, blood, rectal secretions, etc., the chances are you will pass on the virus. Then they came on to the discussion about the word PrEP. PrEP is a drug that's supposed to prevent you, if you do have sex with an infected person, will stop you getting the virus. So he was asking one of these pharmacological bigwigs, what's the difference between the retrovirus drug and PrEP? Nothing. They are the same drug. They work exactly the same way, except if you have it before you get HIV, I know it's AIDS there, before HIV, chances are it will stop it getting into your system and creating this stitch pattern. I've heard of PrEP, didn't know much about it, that was quite interesting. He admitted, and he's a doctor, that within the last, he has not had HIV test in 2 years, even though he works in a lab that deals with HIV culture. And he has admitted, to his shame, that he has had unprotected sex. So he decided to do live on camera an AIDS test. This is what I want to talk about. Those who are feeling about the stigma of going down to the doctors or to a sexual health clinic, you can buy AIDS testing kits off the internet. These are professional kits and they give a greater than 99.7% accuracy. What they are, you have like a pet, a lancet, shake your hands, get blood down, prick it, draw a bit of blood out, put in this special chemical, go away, have a cup of tea for 10-15 minutes, I think it's 15 minutes at least, you come back and check it. If there's one bar, and it separates blood out, if there's one bar, you're HIV negative. If there's 2 bars, you're HIV positive. But it does advise, if you come back result HIV positive, to go down to a doctor, get it rechecked. Because there's, obviously the doctors and the hospitals and the sexual health clinics can do it better because they actually send the blood away for analysis. So those who say, oh, I don't want to go down to the doctors and ask for a HIV test, you can buy them. Amazon sells them. In fact, yesterday we found tests for syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia and all sorts, but we're talking about HIV. You can buy HIV testing kits off the internet. £30? Yeah. Better they're safe than sorry. Well, one of the discussions at work, when this documentary was on, they were talking about, like I said, I had to explain the difference between HIV and AIDS. And they did actually say to me, well, do you go? I says, yeah, go twice a year. Get tested twice a year. And they sort of looked at me, gone out, and well, yeah, but everybody, if they're having unprotected sex or any sexual contact with a stranger, should be getting the test. You may not want to know the results, but it's better to know than not to know. Then they got talking about other countries. He went to South Africa that has got the biggest population of HIV positive people in the world. And again, it comes down to stigma. Most of the blokes there went, oh no, we're not going for HIV tests because we're men. The hospital staff there at this clinic said the first time we find people are diagnosed is when they're coming in so badly, when sort of 2 or 3 weeks later they're dead. And that is the reality of it. It may take 5 years, it may take 10 years, but eventually it will overrun your system. You will get so badly that the chances are you will die. With HIV, if you're diagnosed early enough and prescribed the drugs, you can live a long and happy life without even developing AIDS. That's the truth of it. We're talking 1985, well, the 85, 86, 87, that first really hit the headlines with the news stories and the TV adverts. People of my generation will remember the TV. There was one with a gravestone, there's a new disease, bong, bong, bong. And when he finished, the word AIDS in. And the other one was, there's an iceberg. And as you came down, it talked about 10% of the population that known, but there's a lot more infected and went below. And obviously those who know icebergs, majority of it's underwater. And you have this iceberg underwater with the words AIDS written across. And that is the truth of it. You can't tell anybody if anybody's got HIV until it gets so bad, start developing the symptoms of AIDS. You walk down the street, think about this. Next time you walk down the street, just do a rough count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the adult population that's on that street. I've done it. Walked down the street, counted 60 people. All looking healthy, all looking normal. But the chances are at least one of them people might have HIV. May not even know about it. Then again, 60 people, there could be nobody infected. But that's the chances. In the early adverts, they were talking about history, sexual history. Not just your sexual history, but the person you're having sex with. Let's say you're a bit of a guy, sleeps around a bit, and within a year you sleep with 4 people. Now I'm not talking about gay, I'm not talking about straight, but just 4 people. It could be 4 men, 4 women, 4 gender confused people, 4 people. Who's to say they're not sleeping with 4 people? And then their people that they've met are not sleeping with 4. Soon gets to say, you go back sort of 4 or 5 people. When you add them all up, just from one contact, works out about 300 people. Now you're sleeping with 4 people. So that starts adding up to 1,000 more people. You know, you do the maths. If one person's got HIV, it could be passed all the way along that route, not just to you, but also backwards as well. Because the 5th person has sex with the 4th person, 4th person has sex with the 3rd person, the 3rd person has another partner on the 4th person. This is what they say, you're not just sleeping with the person you're sleeping with, you're sleeping with all the partners that they have had in the past. Some scientists don't like that argument for the simple fact it's too simple explanation of the virus spread. There's other factors come into account and stuff like that. But I'm just talking generally. It could happen. Then they talked about the origins of HIV. Most people know HIV hit the headlines in the 80s. Late 70s into the 80s. Mainly into the 80s. Through research and stuff like that, scientists have found that the first recognisable diagnosis in what I would call the Western world, be it Europe, America, was in the year 1911. That showed the same sort of symptoms. When they looked at the general morphology of the virus, they found out it's quite similar to a disease in the primate population called SIV, simian something virus. Now a lot of people have gone with, oh well, somebody must have had sex with a monkey. Somebody must have had sex with an orangutan. No. You want to think, you've got wild animals that bite, scratch, urinate and stuff. You're talking multiple chances. But what they said is probably a way that the virus was passed on was by eating an infected animal. You go to some of these African countries, they kill monkeys, chimpanzees and stuff like that, butcher them and eat them. It's what they call bushmeat. And some of this meat isn't what we should call butchered in hygienic circumstances. It's basically a person there with a machete chopping this animal to bits. Also, when they cook them, it's not exactly cooked in a regulated oven. They're cooked over fire, so there could be bits of raw meat and bits of what, if you have in a steak, you would call rare meat. Plus also butchering them, blood splattering all over them. They're not exactly wearing butcher's apron and mask and stuff like that while they butcher these animals. You know, they've probably got shorts and a bit of a t-shirt on. And they reckon that's how the virus spread. Why didn't it become prominent until really the 80s? Simply culture. 1910, 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, majority of the 1960s. And then at the end of the 60s, what did you have? You had the age of the flower power. The age of free love. Into the 70s, you had people experimenting sexually, having multiple sexual partners. And within the gay, even though in the heterosexual world that happens, it doesn't happen a lot compared to the gay culture that really exploded in the late 70s and 80s, where people were basically screwing and fucking left, right and centre. And that's why it hit the gay community more than any other community, basically. Because of the promiscuity of this culture. Yeah! We weren't tied down to one person, we were screwing and fucking left, right and centre. And that's why it spread so violently. So basically, up to let's say 1967, 1968, one man, one woman, you had the people that swingers that did it now, but not as much as they since the late 60s and 70s, promiscuity. People who are single, got money, don't want to get tied down straight away, playing about. The gay community, with decriminalisation, coming out, clubs, bars, bathhouses, saunas. That's why it was an automatically high expansion in the virus spread. Lifestyle, culture. But yes, it was a very interesting documentary. It was called, it's a series of documentaries called The Truth of, or In the Truth of. And it was called The Truth of AIDS. But it was more talking about how at one time HIV was an automatic death sentence. Even if you live 5, 10 years, it was an automatic death sentence. These days, due to the modern drugs and the work of scientists, it's now a virus. It can be controlled, it can be regulated, and you can live a happy, normal life. Who knows? Who knows? One day they might find a cure for it. Then, like rubella, mumps, tuberculosis and stuff like that, you go as a child, get a vaccination, and you don't have to bother about it because it won't take hold in the system. Who knows? But we're looking at the future of that. Rightio. Speak again soon.